Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and I'm going to be talking about Big Little Lies, Season 1, Episode 1. It's called Somebody's Dead. So, why am I doing this now? Because it's been 2 years since Season 1. Well, Season 2 is coming up, and I never saw Season 1. This is me watching, I'm catching up for Season 2, and I thought I'd give it a try, and I thought I might as well record thoughts after each episode, which will slow me down a little bit in my binging to catch up. I'm actually starting this a few weeks, but it's actually close to a month before Season 2 starts. What I might do is I might let these build up a little bit without putting them online until it gets close, and then I can, churn them out very quickly over the course of a week or so. But yeah, Big Little Lies is a show from HBO from 2017, and it's got a big starring cast. We got Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, Shailene Woodley, Adam Scott, Alexander Skarsgård, Zoe Kravitz, Laura Dern. Huge cast, and this got a lot of Emmy nominations and awards, and people seem to love it. Connor didn't like the first episode because he did watch episode 1 back then, which is probably why I didn't check it out. Was his opinion? Maybe that was a mistake. We'll find out. Especially, admittedly, I've implied that I'm going to watch the rest of it, so I suppose I disagree, at least somewhat. So, Big Little Lies Season 2 is coming. I guess I'll just give a full spoiler warning for Episode 1 right now, just because I feel like, is there a point in doing a spoiler-free section this much later? Maybe there is, I don't know. But spoilers for Episode 1 of Little Big Lies. And for the record, I don't know anything about the rest of the season. I don't know any spoilers. I've somehow stayed away from all that stuff. So, I can go in cold. I know there's been a murder. I don't know who's been murdered. I don't know who the murderer is. I'm saying murder a lot because some people really like with Scottish people say murder. It's I don't know. It's a Taggart thing, I guess. But yeah, I'm really cold, by the way. I'm like bundling up here for some reason. It's like May. Why am I so chilly? I'm not usually this chilly in May. But yeah, so the premise of the show is that we open kind of. There's like a framing device of where we're in the future, or if you could call this present day, and the rest of the stuff's a flashback, whatever way you put it. But we're in the future, and there's been a murder, and the key players that we're going to be introduced to over the course of the flashback, which is the bulk of the episode, is one of them's. They're all involved in some way. We don't know which one's dead. We don't know which one's the killer. Of course, I know some cast members are back for season 2, which I guess gives me an idea of who it isn't. But I'm intentionally not thinking about it too hard. So we have basically they all come to this town for school, right? The school's really good. And when I say school, I'm talking like grade school. So you've got all the rich moms sending their kids there, and you have this new character, Jane, played by Shailene Woodley, who comes in, and she is like the out-of-towner, and she's not as rich as everyone else. She kind of is looked upon a little bit differently. I mean, some people are very friendly with her, but how genuine is it? And I think a lot of this first episode, because I did see Sharp Objects. I reviewed that show last year, and I think what's funny comparing the two of them is that both shows, at least just from one episode of this, they're giving me characters I'm not used to seeing on TV or in movies, at least not to this much depth where I get to know them this much. And because of that, I'm discovering like new types of people that I don't like. Reese Witherspoon's character in this, I really don't like her that much. I mean, it's not that she's an awful person, but I don't think she's the sort of person that I would want to be around for any stretch of time. She's the gossiping, has to always be involved in everything, mother, gets involved in everything. She's friends with Nicole Kidman's character, Celeste, and I'm learning all the character names, so bear with me if I'm checking my list over at the side here as I'm going. But Nicole Kidman's got the younger husband who's Skarsgård. She's got twin boys. Witherspoon's character, Madeline, she has an older daughter who's a teenager, but she also has a younger daughter who's just starting first grade, Chloe, who, for the record, is my favourite character of the whole thing. Chloe is the MVP of this episode. This girl was cracking me up. Like, it's not necessarily a funny show. There's definitely a couple of like funny moments. This girl was legitimately making me laugh out loud repeatedly. She says things like, she refers to her mother as woman. She says, "I'm on your side, woman," at one point, and that really made me laugh. She's 6, might I remind you. And then another line, not from her specifically, but from her mother, when they're all waiting because they're having orientation day. They're not actually starting first grade yet. That's the next day. They're starting orientation, and it's the end of the orientation, and all the parents are waiting outside for the kids. And some of the kids have come out already, and Madeline's like, where's Chloe? Where's Chloe? Where's she? And then she finally sees her with some other kids, and she's like, oh, of course, she's networking. So Chloe's my favourite so far. She also drops an F-bomb near the start of the episode, which also delighted me. So we have that. We have this really complicated dynamic sort of set up where her older daughter, whose name was was it? No. Who's got a last name Mackenzie? Chloe's the young daughter. Who's the older daughter? Come on, IMDb, don't fail me. Don't fail me. Oh my god. Okay. Abby. It was Abby. Yeah, Abigail. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't that. Wasn't Abigail. I don't know. Alright, so the older daughter, whatever her name is, I'll learn these, I promise. The older daughter, she's actually, her father's actually someone that Madeline's separated from. She's got a new husband, Adam Scott, who she has the younger daughter with. But the older daughter is, this other guy's kid, and he's remarried this other person named Connie, who Madeline hates because she's this free-spirited, loving person who's very different from her. You can almost see why this relationship didn't work out and why the husband went elsewhere, because the woman he's with now is the polar opposite of what Madeline is. And they've also got their own little daughter who's about the same age, right? So they're both going out to first grade together as the two, daughters, and they're kind of, semi-related because they both share an older sister. And so we've got that going on. Laura Dern's a character in here as well. She plays Renata, and she's kind of unique to the mothers that we meet in that she's the one who has a big career, whereas a lot of the other mothers are stay-at-home mothers and maybe have part-time jobs, but where she's like, a proper successful businesswoman. And there's some tension. And this episode was like really tense and really in weird ways that was making me angry. After the orientation, it's actually Renata, Laura Dern's character. Her little girl has been hurt. She's got like a bruise or a mark on her neck, as if someone's had their hand over her neck. And I say over, you know what I mean, strangling, assaulting. And none of the kids know each other's names yet, so all the parents and the kids are still around. They're outside the school and they're all around. And the teacher maybe does initially maybe the right thing, where she just kind of shouts out, "Hey, to whoever it is, all you have to do is come up and apologize, right? I'm in the 6th, right?" And no one steps forward. And then Renata's getting very upset. And then the teacher's like, "Can you point to the child who did this?" And I'm like, This is so unprofessional. This is the worst possible way to deal with this situation. You want, in front of every other kid and every other kid's parent, you want to shame someone into being outed for doing something, which will then define them in all the other parents' eyes. And we see the effects of this throughout the episode. We see Skarsgård at one point gets very upset and like, "Oh, my boys should not be interacting with this child." And he gets very aggressive with Nicole Kidman, because their relationship, up until that point, seemed very loving. Everyone else was complaining about how kind of like flirty and like happy they always seem to be, even though they're both like, their ages. And then it gets very kind of sinister and angry. He grabs her hand. I mean, if I have a complaint about the episode, is that there's maybe a couple of characters that they're playing a little on the nose as potential killers, and Skarsgård's definitely one of those. The other one, bizarrely, is the little boy who may or may not have hurt the girl. He claims he didn't. He seems genuine enough. His mother believes him, and that's Jane, of course, Shailene Woodley's character. I'm just reiterating who some of these people are as I'm going, for mostly for myself, rather than you guys, but just to make things clear. And there's like weird flashes from Woodley's character Jane, where she kind of like has these flashes of waking up and like her son standing over the bed in a very creepy serial killer way. She also has flashes of other things, like wearing a dress, as if something happened in the past. And obviously the fact that they've moved here, there's one phone call she has with her mother at one point about her mother's like, sure you should have moved there, and it seems like she has ran from something for a fresh start. And is it because her son did something that was dangerous or sinister? Is it for another reason? What was his father? Because when she's asked about his father, she just says he's not in the picture and he never was. Is that true? Is the father a picture? In fact, in that very scene where she's been asked that at the coffee shop, there's some mysterious man watching them from round the corner. It's all very sinister. Much like Sharp Objects, the murder mystery itself is not super interesting, at least so far. What's really kind of making it work is all of the individual scenes are very well acted, and you have characters who are likable or infuriating depending on who they are, and they become those things very quickly, but they do it in a very kind of, I don't know, like realistic way. Like I can imagine meeting these people and hating their guts, some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. Because Madeline is so self-obsessed, it is surreal, and there's human qualities there. I mean, she's worried that her babies are growing up, and her role as a mother's coming to something of an end, which is kind of a weird thing to say when her daughter's only going into grade school. But it's reminding her of how quickly her other daughter grew up, and she's feeling kind of upset about that. So there's human qualities there that are understandable, and you kind of you're endeared a little bit. But she also has a scene where she's upset that her older daughter seems to like her father more, and her stepmom, or whatever you call him, Bonnie. And there's this scene out in the beach where Adam Scott, her husband, comes out and tries to comfort her, and she goes on this rant about how, I had to try so hard to get over the breakup of that marriage, and I was hoping that he would feel like he would be punished in some way in the grand scheme of things for breaking everything off and leaving me, or I mean, not been her exact words, but one of the things she specifically says is he's gotten away with everything scot-free. There's like nothing. He's got this younger, perfect wife who's attractive. He's got this new kid. My daughter loves him more. She's just miserable that he's doing so well. And Adam Scott, and all I was thinking throughout this is is this really a sensible or a humane thing to say to your current husband? And quite rightly, Adam Scott says, well, as the consolation husband. And she's like, no, I don't mean that. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm watching this and I am feeling horrible for Adam Scott. I'm surprised Adam Scott's not left you by now, if this is the way you prattle on. She basically just stands there and is miserable that her ex-husband is doing so well, and she's so jealous. And her current husband is just sort of standing there listening to it, and it's hard to like her. It's hard to really like her that much. Oh dear. So you've got her. She's definitely a character, but sadly not super unrealistic either. She feels fairly realistic in a weird way. So we've got her, and we have Nicole Kidman, who does seem to have this loving relationship with her younger husband, but it does kind of take a dark twist as the episode goes on. And then Renata, we do actually get one scene with her, because she feels kind of minor compared to the other characters for a lot of the episode, but she does have one scene on her own at home where she's complaining at how all the other mothers essentially kind of blame her for being the one who has success, and she's complaining about having jealousy, and her husband tries to talk, and he has no idea how to make things better. He says some stupid, he has that moment where he says something and you feel it in your gut that he just said the wrong thing. You just know. And she gives him this look. She turns around and gives him this evil eye. He says something like, "Oh, all you women, you want to be the envy of all your friends, but heaven forbid you actually get too much of it, then it's a problem." And she gives him this glare, and he's trying to simplify things, and it's complex characters. And I think what I'm trying to say here is that as much as I think I would hate to ever meet Madeline, I think she's an interesting character in a story, if that makes sense. And I feel that way about some of them. I think Shailene Woodley's character is maybe the most cliche one, in that she has this mysterious past that might be linked heavily to what's going on in the murder trial and the plot. The murder stuff itself, we get these interviews with various minor characters who witnessed various transgressions, and they're talking about, that first day, this is what happened, and it's clearly over the course of the season we're going to build up to the actual thing. And we do get some crime scene stuff. The show actually largely opens with a POV shot of someone who's getting medical treatment at the crime scene. There's a lot of ambulances and fire trucks and all that kind of thing. and it's someone who's very out of it, and they're looking around, and it does this neat thing with the audio where it's like cutting between the detectives, looking at things. We don't see what they're looking at. We don't see who the body is or anything like that. They're just sort of talking about what the scene is. But every time it cuts back to the POV shot, the sound goes away, and it's just like loud noise. It's just, you know, ringing in the ears. It's just the chaos around, and you know, who is this POV shot? There doesn't seem to be an indication, at least yet. There's also quick flashes towards the end of very passionate sex. Who's having passionate sex? It's hard to tell right now. But it's definitely seeing a lot of the things, and one of the things I'll be looking for, I think, as I'm going through the season, is Sharp Objects had a very central theme to it. It had a very central theme about basically the hidden anger and frustration of women, and I feel like I can already feel kind of similarities in this show in different ways. Not that it was written by the same person, although it's the same director, and I believe it's based on a book by the same author. But David E. Kelly is the TV writer on this. I'm seeing similarities, and I definitely feel like the murder mystery itself is going to have its moments, but isn't necessarily going to be the sole purpose of what we're doing with the characters. And the actual interactions and how the tension of what is essentially competing, you know, first grader mothers is going to spiral into bigger events. And the various stresses that come with that, the various stresses of who these people are. And it's hard to get a solid beat in all of this in one episode, but I'm kind of expecting it to build nicely throughout, because Sharp Objects did the same thing, and I can definitely tell it's from the same director. And there's some nice touches in the direction. It always looks good. It never feels like a cheap TV show. It always looks like it's got style. It's always feeling the moment. And like I say, there's like some tension and like some really absurd but very, at the same time, very normal scenes. Like, you know, point at the boy that hurt you in front of everyone. That was very tense. It felt very awkward. And once she did point at the kid Ziggy, Jane's son, he's like, I didn't do it, and he seems very genuine. And you know, Jane wants to say, hey, no, I believe my son. He's saying he didn't do it, and it feels very tense because you know, or maybe tense isn't even the right word. At this point, it's more of an awkward. It's this social awkward, so almost social anxiety, because now Renata is like, oh, this is ridiculous, and she's you know, want to pick, she comes up and basically doesn't quite, I mean, basically threatens the kid. She comes up and says, if you ever hurt my daughter again, you'll be in big trouble. Which is, I mean, if you're going to threaten a kid, saying you'll be in big trouble is the way to say it, I suppose. But it just, you know, it was very, like, she got in his face. So there's the social anxiety elements, and I feel like I'm going to be feeling a lot of that over the course of it. Because other beats, you know, Madeline's older daughter, like, who's very distant from her all episode, eventually comes down and talks to her late one night, or late in that night. It's all set over one day, essentially, the flashback stuff. And kind of like comforts her, and like she's been kind of a moody teenager the whole episode, but ultimately at this point kind of admits, hey, you're my mother and Bonnie's not. Like, I'm friends with her, I may even be best friends with her, but she's not my mother. You are. And you know, Madeline starts crying, and that's kind of what I get back to saying, where as much as I kind of hate her, this moment was very human, and as much as a lot of her concerns feel very frivolous to me, this moment felt genuine, and I understood how she feels to some extent. Again, I would never want to be trapped in a room for any stretch of time. So, you know, I mean, she's the one who sticks out a lot in many ways, although my favourite's definitely Chloe, her daughter. She's really good. Yeah, who else have I not spoken about, actually? I think I've went through most of the main cast. We do have, you know, the detective side of things, and you know what we're doing with that, and not a lot to go on there yet. We get like we had the interview sequences early on in the episode. At the end, we kind of get to see the other side over the one-way mirror, and see the detective looking in, and she seems to go out and be analysing various areas at the end. And we have this. Yeah, this is when we get the quick flashes, because there's a kind of a montage at the end of, like, you know, Nicole Kidman's lying in bed, kind of like thinking about what's happened with her husband and so on, and we have these quick flashes of sex mixed up in all this montage, and who is that? We don't know. We keep getting these shots on the beach of footsteps. The camera's kind of just gliding over the beach. And this seems to be related to something either before the events of this or at the end of the events of this. And it ends interestingly with with a black screen coming down. It almost felt like you're inside a car trunk, a car boot, and it's coming down slowly, and you're not seeing the beach anymore. You know, it's looking out at the ocean, and it's like shutting. I don't know if that's just me reading into this black, screen coming down, but there was just enough of a shape to it that I felt like it actually was maybe implied that we're inside like a car at this point. I don't know, but the mystery's there. The mystery's there. Yeah. So like, I like the first episode. Much like Sharp Objects, it's not like super enthralling yet. I don't think. I think that show got me maybe around episode 4 when I really started to get into it, and I think I could see this being kind of a similar burn, where I maybe don't necessarily love it quite yet until a little bit in, because there's definitely some cliched elements. You know, the first time it like Shailene Woodley had the quick flashes to like something violent and like her son standing over her bed, I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're doing that. You know, the mysterious man watching from afar, like these little more tropey elements that are kind of sprinkled in there, which don't drag it down, but it's worth mentioning as a caveat. And we get a lot of the characters. There's a lot of good acting, of course, performances from across the board. I think early on when Madeline's introducing Jane to everyone, and then takes her and Celeste, Nicole Kidman's character, for coffee, like there's a lot of like back and forth quick dialogue. Well, I say back and forth. There's a lot of quick dialogue from Madeline, from Reese Witherspoon, and she's asking questions. She's kind of prodding, and if anything, I mean, the bizarre thing is, as much as like she's super invasive for my standards, I actually kind of respect the idea that she's kind of like getting to the bottom of things for the audience, even though I don't necessarily think the answers from Jane are 100% true. But you also get that Celeste is kind of like, hey, calm down, Madeline, like, don't be rude or whatever. And she's definitely the more timid one. So we have very distinct characters. I think the big positive thing I would say about this is that I came out of this. I might not know everyone's name because it's a lot of names, and I'm terrible with names anyway. But I came out of this first episode clearly understanding and knowing who everyone is. And I don't think I'm going to struggle in episode 2 to remember the personalities or who is who and how they play off of each other. So I think it does a really good job setting up the characters. And a lot of this first episode is setting up the characters as well as setting up the core dispute. Because as one of the interviews puts it, when this pointing out the kid that hurt her scene happens, the battle lines were drawn. Because Madeline sticks up for Jane, and it becomes this like, okay, there's like two factions of mothers now. Other details is probably mentioned for plot wise, just I'm thinking of them. We have Madeline does like musical theatre, and she's doing something for the kids soon. Presumably the event where the murder happens, that we see in the flashes at the start and the end. There's a petition going around to stop this performance. We find out there's F-bombs in it, and that's maybe why some of the parents are against it. But the drama here is that the Bonnie, the new wife of her ex-husband, or just ex, I don't know if they were married, she actually signed the petition to stop the thing, so she has to tell her just before she sees the petition and try and let her to know, I didn't know you were involved, I just didn't think this was the right thing to do. So, I think actually, because the ex-husband, when Bonnie says, hey, I'm going to tell her this, he gets kind of scared. He's like, no, that's a bad idea. And it reminds me of the start of the episode, because right at the start of the episode, when she's in the car, and she gets out to go and talk to this other car because they're driving while texting, and her teenage daughter's in that car. When she gets out to go up there, young Chloe in the back seat says something like, they're dead, when she gets out. So, like, it sets up that she's this force of nature as far as, like, soccer mums go, if to use that phrase. And no, so it does a great job establishing its characters. Like, I don't feel confused about who anyone is outside of like mysterious mystery man watching from afar, but that's fine. Like he's supposed to be mysterious right now, and it has style. So there you go. I guess that's my thoughts on the first episode. I feel like as I go, I might get a better formed sort of opinion of the themes. It's definitely poking at things in this first one, and hopefully I dig in. And if I've missed anything in this first episode, feel free to comment and point out relevant moments you think that I've not covered or whatever. Although of course don't spoil later episodes, because where would the fun that be? Yeah. Although that said, if I do hold these back until I've recorded a bunch of them, I won't see your comments until like several episodes from now. So that maybe puts a dent in that plan. But yeah, let me know what you think of the show and the first episode. You can like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on Twitters at mailed_fudge for channel updates. You can get me on Twitter specifically at Woodley89. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfudgetv. We can support us for as little as $1 per month. And you can, of course, also rate and review the podcast feed. If you listen to the audio version on iTunes or whatever else, give us a 5-star rating, give us a review. It helps out. It sends out the podcast to other people and gains us new listeners. So that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening, and I will see you guys next time. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?